So Brooke, thanks so much for being here with me. I just have this I was telling Brooke before we started recording, I'm having this vision that we are just interviewing moms and again, connecting you guys with these stories that are relatable. And that way you guys don't feel alone. That we're talking to all sorts of moms.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here in this beautiful experience with me because you are an Ogden photographer. I've known Brooke for over a year. And I think if you were to, no offense, Brooke, but if someone meets you in public, I think that you're very reserved. You're very, you're just kind, you're soft-spoken. And the biggest thing that I love about you is when you finally get you talking is you are very educated. You have a lot of experience. How many kids do you have? Two kids. So yeah, you're a mom, you're an awesome mom, and your kids are thriving. Your kids are very proud of what they're doing in their own business as well. So yeah, I wanted to get you in here and really fast, let me read your bio. So Brooke is the owner of Affinity Photo Studio. She holds a degree in graphic design and business management. She believes photo sessions should be professional, fun, and inspired and not painful. You should want to do them again and again. She takes the time to get to know you and to help you understand how to make a great photo. I'm like skipping through your stuff. Like you like puzzles. You like being on the show with me. So yeah, we'll just kind of jump into it. So Brooke, when did you, what do I want to ask first on this episode? Hang on, because I just think you're incredible. I want to talk about that job and that experience. So how long were you there? Where did you start?
So I was with Wells Fargo for close to 22 years. I left for 3 years to be a graphic designer and then went back. And I started as a teller and moved all the way up to lead teller and then new account representative into marketing, PR. And then I had to go back to the branches after the first security merger. And they already had a marketing team on. So I got bumped back to the branches. So I was a branch manager for 11 years.
Wow.
Very fun job, very cool job, but super, super stressful.
Yeah.
And I am not one that likes to babysit people. And it became more and more that was the issue. So,
sometimes management is adult babysitting, and sometimes it truly can be. So.
It really is, when they put their own failures onto you, when you've given them every bit of tools and every bit of help that they can, and they're just not using them, what do you do with that? So anyway, just got fed up with that. One day I just can't take any more, and I was starting to have health issues. And so I got online and I applied for a job that I totally didn't think I was even qualified for, and got it. And I realized that sometimes you need that little push to make you do what you should do anyway, and to believe in yourself enough, because, when I got that job, they were like, oh my gosh, why didn't you come here years ago? And it's, anyway, and in that job, I was a business banking manager forever. It seems like loved that job.
When you applied for the job, if you don't mind me asking, how old were your kids back then?
They were close to grown at that point.
Okay. So a little bit more freedom to kind of take a chance like that, but finally just that niche to go.
Yeah, still needed the benefits, still needed to stay with the comfort level of that job. And, but, moving into business banking was the best thing ever for me, because that's what I'm good at. I'm good at relationships with people. Yeah. I'm good at advising people and helping them see the forest through the trees, helping them feel good about themselves and confident about their decisions. So it was a perfect fit job for me. I absolutely loved that job. So I was really glad that I took that leap. In that job, part of what I had to do was try to bring in more women into that job, because out of over 50 bankers in Utah that were business bankers, there were 4 of us when I started that were girls.
That were women. Okay.
Yeah, that were women. So, and in doing that, I did a lot of partnerships with, like the University of Utah and slick and all that other stuff, and found out that studies show that women will apply for jobs that they have 100% of the qualifications for. But men will apply for jobs they have 30% of the qualifications for, because they believe in themselves and their ability to figure something out. And so I feel like that's a societal change that we need to try to assist with as moms, is to let girls know you don't have to have everything all together all the time and to figure it out. You just have to believe in yourself. So
completely.
Yeah.
There was a statistics class that we took once, and it talked about how women in the workforce they end up getting paid less because they ask for less.
Yes.
And same study, man, same position, same qualifications. And then when asked, well, how much do you want to make? The man had asked for what he thought he was worth. And then the women had kind of just asked what they thought the job was worth, not their worth. That was interesting.
Yeah. Well, being a manager for 11 years, I can tell you not one female ever negotiated salary with me.
Wow.
And every male did.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's something I feel like we're lacking, is teaching our girls that it's okay to say I'm worth more than that.
Yeah.
or to even ask for more than what you expect, because then they can negotiate back down again. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're trying to be greedy.
Right.
It's just part of the workforce. So, and the 8 years I spent in business banking, my manager was a woman, and she said that she never had a female, including myself, I hate to say, that negotiated salary.
My goodness.
So, yeah. So definitely something we should be working on as moms. So.
I don't think I ever negotiated my salary. I'm thinking long and hard about this. Mm-hmm. I don't think I negotiated my salary.
Yeah.
Nope.
Isn't that just an eye opener? Like,
wow.
Oh gosh, wow.
I worked in collections for a long time and worked my way up the ladder in corporate, and that was great, and it was fitting, and it was comfortable. Unfortunately, collections isn't the most soul feeding job that you can go and obtain. So it had its days where it was good to be the nice collector and whatnot. But yeah, when I'm looking back at my entire experience throughout that, gosh, I never once asked to renegotiate. I never, I did bring it up once. I noticed that the three guys in training kind of got a little bit more of, there was like a certain lunch that they got invited to and that I hadn't been invited to yet. Right. And until I had mentioned that I hadn't gone to that yet. And then I had finally been included, and it's like, yeah. Well,
I had to learn how to golf when I got into business banking, because otherwise I missed out on half of the meetings.
That's rough.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. But I actually like golf, so that's good. But
that's good. That works. Yeah, I don't know how to golf.
Yeah, I had to hurry up and figure out how to do that and not embarrass myself, because that's the other thing, is men don't want to golf with girls who can't golf.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you got to figure that out. Anyway, I just thought that was pretty interesting, because I made it about a year, and I thought, okay, I am missing out on so much of this and so much of the negotiation and closing process because I'm not golfing with these guys. So.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't it funny?
Well, and it's a true stigma.
Still intact.
Yeah, it's a true stigma. I mean, these aren't, things that we make up. Women in the workforce have been overlooked for a lot of things. The wage gap is, again, not something that we talk on it because it exists. It's not something we came up from thin air. So it's just crazy. And there's a quote going around recently. I won't quote it exactly, but it just basically says, ask a girl about her experience in this. And I almost wonder if we were to take the same kind of quote and say, ask a girl when they felt mansplained at work, and just watch the stories. Because anytime I connect with somebody, they say something ridiculous, like I had to learn how to golf, or I had to, do something else. And I know I had a scenario one time where I sat a man down for a meeting. I was just explaining his invoices. And I brought my boyfriend just because I thought he would not talk to me the same as he had, if he were here. And I just simply, my boyfriend would go in there. He's like, I'm a little nervous. Like, we're in a restaurant, perfectly safe setting. But he's like, I don't know what to do in this scenario. I was like, I just need you to sit there. Like, I'm very smart. I know what I'm talking about. I have everything broken down. I have all the interactions. And I haven't been hard to work with at this point, I felt. So we were just going to breakfast to discuss this. And the guy had ordered coffee and food and everything. And we had ordered our coffee and food. And within less than 5 minutes, he couldn't mansplain me, is really what it came down to. And he got up and he said, okay, I'm not eating. And he left the restaurant and he said, cancel my food, cancel my coffee. And it was super dramatic. And I just can't help but think that had I been alone, and usually in those type of situations, because I was self-employed, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll do it for free. Like, it's not a big deal. But in this scenario, having my boyfriend there really made me have to have that backbone that I couldn't back down and say, okay, Mr. like yelling at me, like these are like, okay, I'll do it for free, because normally that's what I would do. So it took me a long time to even get the confidence to ask my boyfriend to come sit with me while I have those type of things. It's hard.
Well, and why is it as a woman that we feel guilty for getting paid for what we're doing? Like, for our skills, for our insights, for our education, for our experience, all that stuff. We don't have a problem paying other people for theirs. I mean,
right.
So, and, we're always cheering each other on, but sometimes I think we forget to cheer ourselves on and say, yeah, you got this. You can do this and you're worth this. And it's okay that you lost that client because he wasn't your client. Why would you want him? Do you know what a pain in the rear end that guy would have been? You would have just been hating your life. So, I know that there's still people out there like that. When I was in business banking, especially, I had that issue where, I'd go on visits to potential clients and they'd take one look at me and go, where's your boss? And I'd say, well, my boss is a girl too. Well, then I'm not interested. And they would send me on my way. And I thought, how are you in business?
Yeah.
I understand, diversity. But then again, I'd leave and I'd just say, you know what, they're not my client. Because if they were, I would be miserable. They would be making me miserable. So definitely not worth it. And it's okay to say no, because that opens up your time for the right people to come into your life. So
exactly. And that's what I feel like all of my interviews lead into, like, your tribe and like making that. So tell me now, you were at Wells Fargo after you took this new job, how long were you in that position for?
I was in my last position for 8 years.
Wow. Okay. And then photography came into your life. Were you already like doing like anything like by yourself or family, or were you just like, I'm going to do this?
So I got into graphic design as a degree because I loved it and I loved the design elements and all that other stuff. But when I worked doing it, I found out it's not really all that much fun. It's kind of, you're working on other people's designs most of the time. You're not really designing much. But in doing that, I found that trying to find, photographs that I could use, free photographs, stock photography, I never found anything I really wanted. So I'd go and take my own pictures of what it was I needed for whatever I was doing. And through that process, just fell in love with photography. Ended up for about 10 years, I did all of my family's everything, weddings, graduations, every kind of party that you can imagine. And started getting so busy that all my friends were asking me to do it. And finally, my husband actually is the one that prompted me, and he said, why don't you start a business and actually charge for this stuff, so at least you can replace your equipment without me freaking out. I don't think people have any idea how much photography equipment really costs, but it is.
You're doing it all by yourself. You're very giving, but
yeah, it's very, very expensive. Just like one light in my studio is $1,500, and you need multiple lights and that kind of stuff. So, not charging people doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I started doing that, and I would because I had my job at Wells Fargo and I used it just as creative stress relief. I did it part-time for 4 years, and it was super fun, but I, hardly charged anything because I mostly still just did friends and family. I just actually started charging them to do that, which is funny because they had all been trying to pay me for years, and I'm like, no. And
yeah. You're getting paid, so you're like, it's okay, guys, I love you. And really, it's taken you 3 hours to do like these 5 photos. So
Well,
if
yeah.
you really want to take your shooting time and everything else into it, it's how long would you say 5 photos? Like shoot time, edit 5 photos.
Shoot time, edit 5 photos at about 7 hours.
Yeah, yeah. It's even driving there. Like some of
Yeah.
the locations you go to are far too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think people put into the scenario, the pre-consultation, the preparation of all your equipment, making sure the locations are, because some locations charge you to actually shoot there. So you got to do your research and anyway, and then shoot time, drive time, and then uploading and culling, and then editing. It depends on how complicated the editing is, but the editing can take me, half hour, 45 minutes per photo.
Yeah.
If I'm lucky. If it's a really big edit, sometimes it's an
That's not
hour.
even exaggerating. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, I'm serious.
Yeah. And I don't do crazy editing. I think people are beautiful the way that they are. So I try really hard to stay true. I want people to actually look like what they actually look like. Just, take the shine off their face, take any little stray hairs out of their face. If they've got zits, of course we want those gone. Like if they have glasses like you, I want to get the glare out of the glasses. There you go. So, yeah. So, and sometimes there's lighting correction that you need to do because your light misfired. And of course that's the most beautiful shot. So I end up spending hours trying to work on the one that didn't have a flash.
Right. Well, and sometimes in those scenarios, because I had done photography for a little bit, and in those scenarios, you may get all of the family shots in this perfect lighting, and then the cloud moves a certain way, and then you take one more photo, and you can tweak it to what you need it, but that one photo needs at least an additional 25 minutes to just do whatever you envisioned it to look like. So it's
well, and I think that's something that people don't think about either with photographers, is that having a photographer that actually has a graphic design background is a super benefit, because we have the capability to go in and do face swapping and things like that. A good example for you is last fall, I did a family photo shoot with the grandparents, their 6 kids, their spouses, and their 12 grandchildren, all under the age of 5. And you've been a photographer, you know what a nightmare that is.
no one's face is looking exactly how you want it in any of those shots. You take 50 shots and then you pick their faces.
Yes. And so I ended up spending close to 12 hours just to get one photo of the group together. It turned out beautifully and she absolutely loved it, but it was not easy. It's like, okay, I get that people don't understand what they're paying for with a photographer, but if you want a shot where everybody's looking at you and they don't look fake, you need a photographer with a graphic design background.
Yeah. Well, and what's the point of spending all that time and money, especially if I can only imagine 12 kids. Like, I'm not even picturing how many people made those 12 kids and walked those 12 kids there and drove them there. Like, that's a lot of family. And get everybody on the same page, schedule wise, like even that month. I can't even hang out with my friends like the same month. I'm like, we'll figure it out. Like one day we'll get to coffee, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So to get your whole family together, you really do want to hire a professional for that. And
think about, not to pick on the guys or anything, but guys do not really care for photos most of the time.
They are mean.
You try to get photos done with guys and they're like, oh man. So scheduling that is already a challenge in itself. So you want to have that successful so that when they look at the photos, they're like, oh, okay, let's do that again sometime.
Yeah.
And if you make it quick and painless, that's the other trick. And so having a photographer that knows how to interact with those clients helps a lot too, where, I need you to, the quicker you look at me and smile the way I want you to, you are out of here. So as soon as I get that smile, we're done. And let me tell you how quick those guys are like,
Yeah,
We got
yeah.
this. Yeah. They'll start cooperating pretty quick because they know I'll keep shooting until I get what I want.
Yeah.
But most of my family shoots, if the guy's really impatient, we're done in 20 minutes. And
Perfect.
yeah. And so you can get any guy to do that. But with a big family like that, think about this logistically. 12 kids under the age of 5, all kids have their good time of day, right? Where they're in a good mood, and that's when I usually try to shoot them. But 12 kids under the age of 5 are all on a different schedule. So,
Such a good observation.
mhm.
Yeah. And you
So
have to tell your clients that before you meet with them. Otherwise, they're not even thinking about that.
yeah, and I do, and I say feed them at least a half an hour before they come, so you have time to clean them up, and they're in a mood to actually, you know, do that. Anyway, that makes it for a really interesting thing. You just have to go with it when you've got that many kids. You just hope for the best in the end, and it turned out really beautifully. But again, that's why I bring it up is, get all the skills that you can, because who knew that getting a degree in graphic design would turn into a photography career for me. So I have an associate's in that. And then I went back and got my business management degree, because if I'm going to own a business, I need to know how to run a business. And as a business banker at Wells and a manager at Wells, I can tell you that is super key. So many business owners don't understand the cost of doing business. They don't understand all the things that are involved in it, or even just the basic management requirements of it that could really get you into tax trouble and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I have that background, and I also am a certified treasury professional, actually. So, which means that I'm a cash flow management specialist. So I can help people identify the best place for them to be focusing on things. Because every business owner, you've been around enough to know, they all have a million ideas just shooting in their head all the time, right? And they're all brilliant. They're all like, oh yeah, that's great. Well, trying to get them to narrow those down to ones that are actually profitable and doable at this point in time is sometimes really tricky. And that was something I actually specialized in quite a bit, which is kind of how I transitioned into doing branding photography, because I wanted to help businesses in that same manner that I did at Wells, where I could help them identify, okay, for your online presence, these are the things that you should be focusing on, because they'll get you the most attention.
Right.
And so that's been really, really fun, getting to do that again and integrate that with my photography. I'm pretty stoked about that.
Yeah. And let's be honest. I mean, photography, art, nobody would be anywhere without all these key components. Because in a business, in your scenario particularly, you are literally the sales guy. You're selling to your family. You have to manage your accounting. You have to brand yourself, be the face of it, and produce, not just photos that you're selling, but let's say you were a dog trainer, and that's your specialty. You would still have to have nice photos of you dog training and have an online presence of that sort. So I don't think people really understand how vital photography is, because there's nothing online that I'm clicking on that, like, if Walmart didn't have even pictures over their products, they literally have photos of their products over their products. That's how essential photography is.
Well, the other thing that I try to stress to people is, when you're shopping for, let's say, a dog groomer, and you're going on Facebook or Google or whatever and doing your search, do you tend to migrate to the page that looks like it's a home job? Or do you migrate to the one that looks like they're taking their job seriously? So they've got professional photos, everything looks and look and feel makes sense. You get an idea of their personality, all that stuff. It really does make a difference. And I know that people that, work from home, because I work from home, my studio is my basement, but I still work from home. Sometimes they forget that it's actually even more important that you have that professional presence online, because people want to know you take yourself seriously. Otherwise, why should they? If you don't, why should they? So when you look at your online presence anywhere, you should look at it and say, if I was shopping, would I like this? Would this attract me immediately on my landing page? Because they're not even going to bother clicking on other pages if they don't love what they see on the very first page. So
Yes. Yeah.
really actually the top half of your page.
Yeah.
So,
And then the next thing is, don't oversaturate your brand with, if you like skulls and bones and that's great, but you're doing photography, maybe talk about photography more than if that makes sense. I know
yes.
some people do that in their business. I
Well,
heard someone that did a wood business and he went from making custom items to just making doors. And once he figured out his niche and that he was going to make these awesome wood doors and that he could take custom orders, that was fine. But before, all of his pictures were a shelf, a bookcase, a chair. It was like all random. But the minute that he just did doors, he's got employees, he's got an office, he's got everything just took from there.
yeah. So finding your niche is super important. I absolutely I can't even say enough on that. It's super relevant. I think sometimes that people, because there's so much information out there, and a lot of the information is always telling you, you need your branding to be super personal. Nowadays with social media and all that stuff, people want to know who you are and who they're working with.
Mm-hmm.
But personal doesn't mean that it's your private life. And
Right.
so I think that that's where some people go wrong, is they forget that this is a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, you want them to know you on some level, but you're not going to post in there. And, I'm not going to post on my business page, every time I see my grandbabies. I'm not going to be posting pictures of my grandbabies. It's not okay. I mean, if I took professional photos of them, then yes, but yeah, just me hanging out and eating food with my grandbabies, I'm not gonna be posting pictures of that. So you want them to know you. However, so again, with the skulls and everything, yeah, that could be a part of your brand, but you don't want that to be all of your brand, because then people think that's all that you are.
Right. I like that. That's great because again, there's a lot of mompreneurs, and I'm sure there's new mompreneurs with the pandemic, and then maybe the pandemic scared mompreneurs away. So
Yeah.
wherever career you're at in your life, I hope that you take this and run with it because
Yeah.
And how much marketing? So I know that you did marketing in Wells Fargo. So did they kind of pick you up and they say, hey, I feel like because I feel like marketing is almost like a natural niche, and then you just kind of expand on it just as anything else. So did they at first take you, or did you already have like marketing through school?
Actually, that was another time I got really angry and applied for a job I didn't qualify for. So
I love that.
I was a new account manager at the time, and I had a client just rip into me for asking him for ID, and ended up staying at work until 8:30 that night because we didn't have a manager at the time. So I was having to be acting manager, and I just was fed up. I was tired, and I applied for a job I didn't qualify for, and I got it. And they based it off of the fact that I had a degree in graphic design, an extensive background in banking, and that I was working towards my business management degree. So they just, personality matters, your experience matters, how you present yourself matters, taking yourself seriously is super important too. So